Alright guys, so being pregnant, I asked, I was given the option if I wanted to take a blood test and also a scan, just to see the likelihood of the baby having Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Patau syndrome, right? So it's a combined test. So it's a scan, of course, and a blood test. And of course I accepted that. I don't know who wouldn't, but I was glad to take it, because that's one thing that as mothers, would never want our children to have to live with or live through, because we've seen other children with disabilities and how hard their lives can be, and also how hard it can be for the parents, especially if you end up being a single parent, right? So how did I prepare for the Down syndrome, Patau and Edwards syndrome test? How did I prepare for that? So for the scan, of course, you have to ensure that your bladder is full, and you shouldn't empty your bladder no matter what before the scan, because of course you can see everything much easier, much clearer if your bladder is full, not over full. So I ensured that my bladder was full. I went in, it's normal, lay on my back, they put a cold gel on my tummy, and they explained the process to me, and she used her device, went over my tummy. She was checking everywhere, saying this is okay, that's okay, that's okay, that's okay, that measure's okay, that's fine, and she was going through and telling me all the body parts and everything. So okay, so I got to understand afterwards why that was. So I'll explain to you. What I understand is Down syndrome, what is Edwards syndrome, and what is Patau syndrome. So Down syndrome is when you have the baby has an extra chromosome or extra gene in the body, and this extra gene or chromosome, it affects the baby's growth, and how the baby functions and things like that. And as for Edwards syndrome, it also affects the baby's growth, and it is quite rare, but it is very, very serious. It can also lead to retardation, and it can lead to much, much worse. If you think about what a mother's or parents' greatest fear could be for their child, then it's that. That is the much worse thing that the Edwards syndrome could lead to. And for the Patau syndrome, also another rare and genetic disorder, and it's also caused by having an extra chromosome. So for example, people with this syndrome are people that you'd see have like a cleft palate or a cleft lip. That is what causes that. It's having Patau syndrome. That's what causes that. So I did that. Oh, there's another thing. They also check the back of the baby's neck. They check the back of the baby's neck, because there's a liquid that should be in the back of the baby's neck, and it depends on the amount that's there. That also signifies, that something is terribly wrong with the child, and it also signifies that the child may end up having Down syndrome. So I took the blood test as well, because it's a double test. I took a blood test as well, and for the blood test they were checking for 2 hormones. I'm not sure which hormones, to be honest. So they were checking for 2 hormones, because if these hormones, I believe, were too high, it would indicate that the chances of the child having these 3 Down syndrome are highly likely. So I did it, I got back the result, and I'm very low. Remember, they can't say it will never happen. So they said the chances of that happening are very, very low. They can't say it will never happen. But guys, so those are the 3 tests I did, just to confirm the probability of my baby having Down syndrome, and the chances are very, very low. So again, the test, what they test for the disorders, the Down syndromes, are Down syndrome, Edwards, and Patau, and they check this by doing a scan of my tummy to see the baby, and also a blood test. In that area, I think I'm good, and I pray to God it continues that way. Anyway, I'm Dee, a 40 years old, aspiring mom to be, living in a shared house in London, and I'm just here sharing my everyday realistic lifestyle journey with you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.